The vet had prepped a needle. It was quiet in the small-town clinic. Too quiet. Officer Eli Mercer knelt beside Rex, the old K-9 who'd once taken down armed suspects and sniffed out missing kids like it was nothing. Now, arthritis bent his back, cataracts clouded his eyes. The station had said their goodbyes. Eli whispered one last, "Thank you," into Rex's ear. But then, just as the vet reached for the syringe, Rex growled, low, guttural, primal, and pushed himself to his feet. His cloudy eyes locked on the clinic door, and within seconds, Eli's phone began to ring. The knock on the clinic's back door came sharp and urgent. 3 raps, too fast to be polite, too hard to be casual. Dr. Noreen Hale paused mid-reach, the needle trembling slightly in her latex-gloved hand. Who the hell? Eli Mercer stood slowly, his heart pounding harder than he wanted to admit. Rex had gone rigid beside him, front paw forward, body low to the floor, ears twitching, nose aimed like a rifle at the door. That posture, Eli hadn't seen it in 3 years. Not since Rex retired. Another knock. Louder. "I'll get it," Eli said, voice tight. Dr. Hale backed away, her eyes darting toward the syringe, then to Rex. He's reacting. I see it. Eli pulled the door open, hand instinctively brushing the butt of his sidearm. Outside stood a boy, maybe 15, soaked in sweat, shoelaces untied, blood on his right knee. His chest heaved like he'd outrun the devil. "Help," the boy rasped. "Please. It's my sister. I can't find her. She ran off. Riley's missing." Eli's brain flipped gears. "Who are you?" "Danny. Danny Voss. Please." She was right behind me. Then she screamed. I looked back. She was gone. Something in Eli turned cold. Riley Voss, 8 years old, lived in a trailer off Old Orchard Lane. He'd given her a junior deputy badge at the summer carnival last July. Talkative, fearless, loved dogs. He turned to Rex. The old shepherd was already pushing himself up. It hurt him. Eli could see it in every staggered breath, the tremor in his hips. But Rex's eyes were sharp, alert. He still knew. Dr. Hale stepped forward. "You can't take him out. He's sedated. I didn't give the go," Eli muttered. "Cancel everything. I'll bring him back when we're done. Or not." He clipped the leash on. Rex didn't need it, but Eli needed the anchor, something to hold on to. Outside, the heat was brutal. Late summer in Miners Hollow was like standing inside a hot mouth. Humid, sticky, oppressive. Danny guided them through back trails, his breath wheezing through clenched teeth. Every few minutes, he glanced behind him like something might still be chasing. "What happened?" Eli asked as they trudged through a dry creek bed. The soil was cracked, caked in dried algae and cigarette butts. "Start from the top." Danny ran a hand through his sweaty hair. "We were at the orchard, the old barn near the back. She likes the swing, one of those ropes tied to a beam. I told her we had to go. She didn't want to. I turned around and grabbed my backpack, and then she screamed. Did you see anything?" "Just shadows. I thought maybe an animal, but..." He trailed off. Rex suddenly stopped. Eli halted too. The dog's body went taut, his nose angled left. He gave a single bark, low and sharp. Then he pulled. Eli let him lead. They climbed a slope thick with poison ivy and bramble. Beyond it, the orchard opened like a wound. The trees were dying, brown leaves curling on themselves like fists. In the distance stood the barn, black painted with warp by weather, the left door hanging from a broken hinge. The swing still moved. Eli felt his skin crawl. Rex whined, once, and headed straight for the barn. "Wait here," Eli told Danny, drawing his weapon. Danny nodded, eyes wide, hands trembling. Inside, the barn reeked of mold and rot. Sunlight pierced the boards in thin slashes, catching dust like snowflakes. Rex moved deliberately, slow, precise. He wasn't sniffing wildly. He knew what he was doing. Eli followed, gun raised. "Riley," he called. "Sheriff's office." "Riley Voss, are you here?" Silence. Then Rex barked. Furious. Wild. It echoed hard off the rafters. Eli sprinted toward it, turning past a collapsed stall. and saw the hatch. A floorboard lifted slightly near the back wall. Scratch marks gouged the wood. It had been forced shut from the inside. Eli kicked it open. Riley was curled inside, eyes wide, gagged with duct tape, wrists bound, knees scraped raw. Her pink shirt was torn at the hem. Eli dropped to his knees, heart hammering. Hey, it's okay, I got you. Rex stayed beside her like a sentinel, unmoving. He hadn't barked again. He didn't need to. Back outside, Danny ran to her, sobbing. Riley, oh my God, I thought you were dead, But Riley flinched. She didn't run into his arms. She backed away. Rex stood between them, unmoving. Eli narrowed his eyes. Danny stepped back. Danny froze. What? Something's not right. The boy's face shifted, just slightly, a twitch at the corner of his mouth. She was supposed to stay quiet, Danny said. Eli's stomach dropped. What did you say? She said she'd tell. After what happened in the orchard, said she'd tell Mom. You don't get it. She ruins everything. She always ruins everything. The gun in Eli's hand felt suddenly too light. Danny turned to run, but Rex launched. It wasn't graceful. Age had taken most of Rex's speed. But instinct was still there. He took Danny down with a hard tackle to the back. Teeth bare but controlled. Holding, not tearing. Eli cuffed the boy while his limbs flailed and sobs turned to shrieks. You don't understand. Danny screamed. I didn't mean to hurt her. You left her to die in a hole. She wasn't supposed to scream. Rex growled, deep in his chest. It didn't stop until Eli pulled him off. They brought Riley to the ER, scrapes and bruises, nothing broken. Her eyes stayed on Rex the whole way, her small hand never leaving his fur. Danny was taken into custody without incident. Eli gave the official statement, filled out the paperwork, even accepted the slow claps and back pats from his fellow deputies when they heard what happened. Everyone had a theory. Trauma, jealousy, a family falling apart in a place that didn't know how to look closely. But Eli couldn't stop thinking about how fast Rex had known. The way he moved before the phone rang. The way he stood between Riley and the person she thought was her brother. That night, Eli brought Rex home instead of the vet. He made him a bed on the old plaid couch, cooked him ground beef and rice, sat on the floor beside him like a rookie handler again. You weren't ready, he whispered. Rex blinked slowly, and for the first time in weeks, maybe months, his tail thumped once against the couch cushion. It was faint, but it was enough. Miners Hollow, 2 days later. The sky cracked open before dawn. Not thunder, something more guttural, closer to the earth. Eli Mercer woke to the sound of Rex growling from the living room. The deep, old man kind of growl, the one that made you sit up straight even after years in uniform. Eli threw on jeans and boots, heart thudding as he moved down the hall. Rex wasn't on the couch anymore. He was by the front door, hackles raised, nose pressed to the bottom seam. His leash lay in a tangled heap on the floor. Eli followed the dog's gaze out the window. A car, black, running, unfamiliar. Eli slid his sidearm from the drawer by the shoe rack and opened the door quietly. Rex pushed past him, sniffed the air, then padded out, stiff but focused. The clouds overhead churned like bruises. The car pulled off just as Eli stepped onto the porch. No license plate. No driver visible through the tinted windows. Someone knew, Eli murmured. Rex stood in the driveway, staring down the road long after the car vanished. Back at the station, no one had reported the car. No plates. No traffic cams out that far. Not in Miners Hollow. Too rural. Too forgotten. But something else did come up. Danny's lawyer is calling it an emotional outburst, Deputy Margot said as she slid a case file across Eli's desk. Want a psych eval. Says his client was under strain. Eli stared at the words but didn't read them. His mind was back at the orchard. The hidden crawl space. The way Riley had refused to look at Danny. There's something else, Margot said. When they searched the Voss trailer, they found something weird in the crawl space on the porch. Eli's brow furrowed. Like what? 8 buried collar. Dog-sized. Stained. looked chewed through. Eli went still. Where is it? In evidence. But here's the part that doesn't sit right with me. Margot leaned in. Neighbors say the Voss family never owned a dog. Later that day, Eli brought Rex out to the Voss property. It was unoccupied. Danny's mother had taken off the morning after the arrest. Left a note. Can't do this again. Nothing more. The trailer sagged in the middle, a spine cracked under years of poverty and silence. Toys lay abandoned in the dust near the swing set. One of the plastic swings swayed, even though the air was still. Eli let Rex out of the cruiser. The old dog stood still for a long moment, then sniffed the wind. He headed for the tree line. Thought you were tired, Eli muttered. Following, Rex moved slowly but with purpose. They wound through thick brush, past rusted bikes and broken wind chimes, until they reached a half-rotted fence post. Rex stopped there, stared at a pile of rocks arranged in a careful, unnatural circle. Then he sat, didn't move, didn't bark. Eli dropped to one knee. You're telling me something's under here. He dug with his hands. The earth was soft, turned recently. A foot down, his knuckles struck plastic. He pulled out a grocery bag, knotted at the top. Inside, matted fur. Something small. Teeth still in a snarl. A dog. A puppy, maybe 10 pounds. Collapsed skull. Strangled. And underneath it, something else. A worn spiral notebook. Water damage. Scrawled drawings on the cover. In a kid's hand. 2 stick figures. A boy and a girl. He flipped it open. And froze. Inside were pages of stories. Scenarios. All written in the same immature handwriting. Today I locked her in the closet, but she stopped screaming after a while. I told her she told Mom I'd break her arm. I killed the puppy and said it ran away. She cried for 2 days. Eli's hands shook as he flipped through. Last page. I have to do it before school starts, or she'll ruin everything. Rex whined low in his throat. Jesus Christ. Eli whispered. This wasn't just a one-time snap. It had been building. That evening, Eli went to hospital. Riley was being held overnight for observation. Her aunt was coming to take her out of state. She sat on the bed, knees hugged her chest, silent as a photograph. Her small hands clutched Rex's badge collar. Eli had given it to her when the nurse said she wasn't eating. Hey, Eli said softly as he entered. You feeling a little better? Riley nodded once. Didn't look up. I need to ask you something important. You don't have to answer if it hurts. But did Danny hurt anything else? Before you? Riley's eyes flicked to his face. Her voice, when it came, was quiet but clear. Buttons. Whose Buttons? Our puppy. I told him not to take him out. I told him Buttons didn't like the woods. But he said it was a game. He said I ruined everything. Eli sat beside her, hands clasped. I found what he buried, he said gently. I'm sorry. She didn't cry. She just pressed the collar harder to her chest. I miss Rex already. He's not gone yet. She blinked at him. You said you were taking him to sleep. I did. He said no. Her lips lifted. Barely. But it was real. Can I say thank you? Eli nodded. He already knows. That night, Eli pulled into the field behind his house. Wide open space. Tall grass. The kind of quiet you could taste. Rex sat in the passenger seat, staring out the window. Eli opened the door, helped him down. The old dog limped out into the field, then turned and sat, facing the road, guarding, watching. As the sun set, casting fire across the hills, Eli sat beside him. The notebook from the Voss crawl space sat unopened on his lap. He didn't need to read it again. Some people carried evil like a birthmark. Some carried purpose. And some just never got the chance to choose. But Rex had always known, even when no one else did. That night, Eli slept on the floor beside the couch again. Rex curled close, his breathing slow, steady. No growls, no nightmares, just silence. The kind that came after something unspoken was finally heard. The clock read 5:17 a.m. when Rex stood up on his own. Eli had been half asleep on the couch, a blanket thrown over him. one arm draped across the worn dog's back. He blinked, disoriented, then jolted upright when he saw Rex's legs holding steady, tail stiff, nose twitching. "You good? Oh, boy," he murmured. Rex didn't answer, not with a bark, not with a whine. He simply stared at the front door, and then he walked toward it. No limp, no hesitation. Eli's breath caught in his throat. It didn't make sense. The arthritis, the vet's prognosis, the tremor in his spine that used to shake even on carpet. But this morning, something was different. The kind of different Eli had only ever seen in men just before a final stand. A last push, when they already knew what the end looked like, but still took one more step into the dark. The car was back. Same black sedan. This time, parked across the road from Eli's property, half concealed under the cover of dawn fog and dew-damp pine. Rex stood at the gate, staring, unmoving. Eli stepped beside him, hand on his weapon, badge already clipped to his belt. The car door opened. A man got out. Clean suit. No tie. Mid-50s. The kind of man who didn't look out of place in a courthouse or a funeral. "Officer Mercer," the man said. Calm. "Apologies for the early hour. You've been driving past my house. You want to explain that? I work in juvenile protection. Out of state." He stepped forward slowly, hands visible. "I'm here for the Voss file. Specifically the journal your department found." Eli didn't move. "It's evidence in an open case. I understand, but there's more at stake here than a single case. That boy's history, what he did, it may tie into something much bigger. A pattern, other towns, other names. You saying Danny didn't act alone?" The man's expression didn't change. "I'm saying his behavior was learned." Rex growled, a low, uncertain sound. The man looked down at him. "He's old. Shouldn't even be walking, from what I've heard." Eli's hand dropped to the leash looped around his belt. "He's got enough in him for one more. Maybe two." The man raised both hands. "I'm not a threat, but the journal, it's important. There are names in it. Initials that may correspond to known juveniles from older abuse cases in nearby counties. I think Danny was groomed, used, maybe hurt long before Riley." Eli felt bow rise. "You should have gone to the sheriff." "I did. He said it wasn't his jurisdiction. But you were the one who found the girl, and the dog who saved her." Eli said nothing. The man hesitated. "If I gave you a name, would you know it?" Eli nodded once. The man pulled out a small slip of paper, handwritten, passed it forward. "GT." Eli read it. Eyes narrowed, then froze. Greg Talmadge, retired pastor, owned the orchard property where Riley had been found. Never married. Moved out of state 5 years ago. Left a barn and acreage to charity, but somehow still paid taxes on it, under a shell trust. He was around Danny, Eli said flatly. The man nodded. At least 4 other kids in 3 counties were. Most are dead now. Overdoses. 1 suicide. 1 hit by a train. Jesus. We think Danny snapped, or acted out, or both. Eli's jaw clenched. He thought of Riley, of the fear in her eyes when her brother approached. Not just fear of violence. Fear of something passed down, passed along, taught. "You're not getting that journal," Eli said. "I don't need it," the man said softly. "I just needed to know what it confirmed." Then he got back in the car and drove off into the fog. Later that day, Eli stood at the orchard again, alone, except for Rex. The swing was still there, moving slightly. He walked the edge of the barn, watching Rex limp ahead, slow, proud. Each step deliberate. The dog stopped at a stump, sniffed once, then sat again. Same posture, same stillness. Eli walked up beside him. He looked down. Beneath the stump, buried in the roots, something glinted. He dug with his fingers. Dirt clung to his nails, cold and damp. It was a collar, tiny, blue, tag engraved. Buddy, 2014. Eli swallowed. That was the missing dog from that year's report. Local kid said his dog was stolen near the barn. Family moved a year later. Never solved. And next to the collar, bones. Too small for a dog. Human. Eli felt the ground till under him. You knew, he whispered to Rex. Rex didn't move. He just watched the orchard. The forensic team confirmed it. The remains were that of Amy Castor, missing since 2015. 11 years old, last seen in Miners Hollow. A cold case, never closed. One of the few that had kept Eli up nights when he was still green. It had been right there, under the roots, all these years, and Rex had led him to it. Even when his body was breaking, even when he should have been in the ground himself. That night, Eli stood outside the vet clinic again. Rex sat in the cruiser, head resting on the edge of the open window, eyes fixed on Eli like he knew. This time, there was no phone call to interrupt, no scream, no distraction, just a man and his dog. The vet came out, lips pressed tight. You sure? No, Eli whispered, but I owe him more than pain. He helped Rex inside. The room was quiet, no overhead light, just morning sun pooling across the tile like gold. Eli knelt beside him, held his muzzle in his hands. You were always better than me, he whispered. You never asked for thanks, never asked for rest, just waited for the next command. Rex blinked once. His tail moved, barely. The vet placed a hand gently on Eli's shoulder. Eli gave a nod. I'll stay, he said. Rex closed his eyes. The needle slid in. Eli kept one hand on his partner's heart until the last beat passed beneath his palm. 3 days later, the town showed up. Hundreds of them. Not just cops. Kids. Farmers. Strangers. All packed shoulder to shoulder outside the sheriff's office. Rex's ashes were placed in a carved cedar box, set on the steps beneath a folded flag. Eli spoke only once. He saved more lives after retirement than most do in their prime. Not because he had to, because he refused not to. No one moved for a full minute. Then a little girl stepped forward. Riley. She placed a pink ribbon on the box, one from her hair, then turned and walked away. That night, Eli drove back to the orchard, parked beneath the barn, and for the first time, stood there without his dog beside him. He walked the perimeter, left nothing behind. Then, beneath the swing, he buried the cedar box. One final grave, one final command fulfilled. And when the wind shifted, it carried the scent of apples, smoke, and something else. Something like peace. Something earned.